Asha had noticed the strange behavior long before she said anything out loud. At 28, she trusted her instincts, especially when something felt wrong with the people closest to her. Her younger sister, Lena, was weeks away from her wedding, and everyone expected her to be focused on her fiancé. Instead, Asha watched her sister give too much attention to Rio, Asha's boyfriend. Lena laughed at every joke he made, even the ones that weren't funny at all. She leaned in too closely when talking to him, brushed his arm lightly when she passed, and always seemed eager to start conversations with him. At first Asha tried to convince herself it meant nothing. She's excited about her wedding, she told herself. Maybe I'm reading too much into this. But each day the feeling grew heavier, like a quiet warning she couldn't ignore, and she began to watch their interactions more closely. The more Asha observed, the more uneasy she became. At family gatherings, Lena always managed to sit beside Rio, even when there were plenty of empty seats on the other side of the table. She giggled softly at things he said, placed her hand on his shoulder while talking, and made everything look natural enough that Asha almost felt guilty for noticing. One afternoon during a barbecue at their parents' house, Asha stepped inside to grab a drink. When she returned, she found Lena and Rio standing in a corner of the yard, speaking in low voices. They were standing far too close enough that Asha's heart dropped. As soon as they noticed her, they separated quickly, acting casual. Later that night, Asha asked Rio gently, "What were you both talking about?" Rio looked surprised and said, "Just wedding music. Nothing serious." But Asha's chest tightened with doubt. "Then why were you standing so close?" she asked. Rio sighed and said, "Asha, you're overthinking. There's nothing going on between us." Their talk slowly turned into an argument. Asha wasn't trying to pick a fight, but she couldn't keep pretending everything felt normal. "You could at least set some boundaries," she said softly. "Tell her to calm down a bit." Rio shook his head with frustration. "I can't do that. She's your sister. I don't want to embarrass her or make things awkward before her wedding." Asha felt hurt by his response. "So my feelings don't matter? You just want me to ignore everything?" Rio rubbed his forehead and said, "I'm not saying that. I'm saying you're imagining things that aren't really there." But Asha knew what she saw, and pretending felt impossible. That night they went to bed tense and distant, each lying awake, both feeling misunderstood, and neither knowing how to fix the widening gap between them. The next morning, Asha knew she couldn't keep her worries inside anymore. The argument with Rio had left her feeling hollow, but avoiding the problem wouldn't help. She decided to speak to Lena directly. She called her sister and suggested they meet for coffee. Lena agreed cheerfully, sounding completely unaware of the tension Asha felt. When they met at a small cafe, Lena talked excitedly about her wedding plans. Flowers, music, bridesmaid dresses, completely lost in her own world. Asha tried to listen, but her hands kept trembling slightly as she held her cup. Finally, she took a deep breath and said, "Lena, there's something important I need to talk about." Lena looked surprised, her smile fading a little. "What's wrong?" she asked. Asha explained the small behaviors she had noticed. The laughing, the touching, the lingering looks. She tried to keep her voice calm, but her nerves were clear. At first, Lena simply stared at her. Then confusion turned into anger. "You think I'm flirting with Rio?" she asked sharply. "Asha, that's insane." Asha shook her head. "I'm not accusing you of anything dramatic. I'm asking you to be more careful. It makes me uncomfortable." Lena scoffed and crossed her arms. "Rio is practically family. I'm just being friendly. You're reading things that aren't there." Asha felt her heart ache. She wasn't trying to start a war. She just wanted respect. "Please," she whispered. "Just tone it down." Lena suddenly pushed her chair back and stood. "I'm not going to sit here and be accused of something disgusting," she said loudly. With that, she grabbed her purse and stormed out of the cafe, leaving Asha stunned and alone at the table, wondering if speaking up had been a huge mistake. When Asha got home that evening, Rio immediately noticed the look on her face. "What happened?" he asked gently. Asha told him everything, the cafe, the argument, Lena's reaction. Rio listened, but she could see the disappointment growing on his face. When she finished, he sighed heavily. "Asha, you shouldn't have confronted her like that. She's stressed. Her wedding is soon. You probably hurt her feelings. Asha felt her chest tighten. So you're taking her side? She asked softly. Rio shook his head. No. I'm saying there were better ways to handle it. Asha looked at him, hurt spreading through her. So I'm the problem? Rio hesitated, searching for the right words. No, but you might be overreacting. His answer felt like a slap. Asha turned away, holding back tears, while he quietly walked to the bedroom, leaving her alone on the couch with her doubts. The following days were heavy with silence. Lena stopped speaking to Asha completely. If she texted, Lena ignored it. If she called, Lena declined. Even their parents noticed something was wrong. Asha's mother phoned her one evening, her voice sharp with frustration. What did you say to your sister? She demanded. She's been crying for days. Asha tried to explain everything, the flirting, the closeness, the discomfort, but her mother didn't believe her. Asha, this is your sister. She would never do something like that, she scolded. You need to apologize before you ruin her wedding. Asha felt her heart sink. Even her parents thought she was overreacting. She hung up feeling more alone than she had in a long time. 1 week before the wedding, Asha decided to visit her parents' house to clear the air. She hoped that seeing Lena in person might help rebuild the broken bridge. As she walked toward the front door, she heard faint whispers coming from the side of the house. Curious and nervous, she stepped toward the sound. When she reached the garden, she froze. There, partly hidden behind a large plant, stood Lena and Rio, locked in an intimate embrace. Lena's legs were wrapped around his waist. His hands were under her shirt. They were kissing with a passion that stabbed Asha's heart like a blade. For a moment, Asha couldn't breathe. Her body felt numb, her vision blurry. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't imagination. This was betrayal. The shock broke into a scream before she could stop herself. What is this? Asha shouted, her voice shaking with rage and pain. Lena and Rio jumped apart instantly, their faces pale with guilt. Rio stammered, Asha, wait. This isn't what it looks like. Lena's eyes filled with tears as she whispered, I'm so sorry. Please listen. But Asha couldn't hear anything. The betrayal was too deep, too sharp. She stepped back, trembling, and said nothing more. She turned, ran to her car, and drove away with tears blinding her vision. Both of them called her name, but she didn't slow down. She couldn't. Her heart felt shattered, and every breath hurt as she tried to understand how her sister and her boyfriend could do something so cruel to her. Asha drove straight home, her hands shaking as she fumbled for her keys. The moment she stepped inside, she felt trapped between anger and heartbreak. She grabbed a small suitcase and began packing clothes without thinking. She couldn't stay there, not with the memories of Rio touching her, kissing her and lying to her face. After throwing the last shirt into the bag, she sat on the edge of the bed and typed a single message to Rio, we're done. Don't contact me again. She didn't wait for a reply. She switched off her phone, zipped her suitcase, and left the house. That night she checked into a small hotel in a nearby city. Her body felt heavy with exhaustion, but her mind replayed everything she had seen. How could they do that? She whispered to herself, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. The next morning, after barely sleeping, Asha turned her phone back on. Notifications flooded in. Messages from Rio, Lena, her parents. Dozens of missed calls, desperate texts, long paragraphs filled with excuses. She didn't respond to any of them. She wasn't ready. She spent the day staring at the hotel ceiling, feeling lost. Eventually, however, she realized there was one person who needed to know the truth. Mauro, Lena's fiancé. Asha hesitated for hours before dialing his number. When he answered, his voice sounded confused and worried. Asha, what's going on? Lena said you disappeared. Asha closed her eyes, took a steadying breath, and told him everything, from her suspicions to the scene she witnessed in the garden. Mauro didn't interrupt. He listened in silence, only giving quiet, pained breaths. When Asha finished explaining, the line went silent. For a moment she thought Mauro had hung up. Then he finally spoke, his voice low and careful. Thank you for telling me, he said. I need time to think. Then the call ended. Asha stared at her phone, feeling both relieved and terrified. She didn't know what Mauro would do with the truth. Would he cancel the wedding? Would he forgive Lena? Would her family blame her even more? The uncertainty felt like a weight pressing on her chest. She placed her phone face down and curled up on the bed, whispering, "I didn't want any of this. I just wanted the truth." As the wedding day approached, Asha heard nothing from anyone. Her mother stopped calling. Lena stopped messaging. Even Rio's desperate texts slowed down. The silence was louder than shouting. Each day Asha wondered if she had made things worse by speaking up earlier, but she reminded herself of the truth she had seen with her own eyes. There was no misunderstanding anymore. The pain was real. The betrayal was real. On the morning of the wedding, Asha sat by the hotel window, watching cars move along the street. She had already decided she wouldn't go. She wasn't strong enough to face the family, the whispers, or the lies. That evening, as Asha sat quietly in her room, her phone buzzed. It was her cousin Mira. Her voice came through the speaker in a rushed whisper. "Asha, something huge just happened." Asha's heart skipped. "What happened?" she asked. Mira didn't hesitate. "Maro stopped the wedding." Asha sat up straight. Mira continued breathlessly. "He walked up to the altar right before the vows and said he had something to announce." Asha could almost picture the scene. Guests sitting up in their seats, Lena smiling in her wedding dress, unaware of what was coming. Mira described everything. Maro looked calm, but his voice was firm. He said he couldn't marry someone who betrayed her own sister. Everyone gasped. Lena looked like she couldn't breathe. Asha covered her mouth with her hand, shocked. "He actually said that," she whispered. Mira replied, "All of it. He told your parents they deserved to know why you stayed away. Then he walked out of the church. Just walked out." People were stunned. Asha closed her eyes, trying to absorb the intensity of the moment. She had never expected things to unfold so dramatically. Mira continued, her voice shaking with disbelief. Lena started crying. "Your mom was confused. Your dad kept asking what was happening." Everyone was whispering and turning to each other. Asha listened silently, her emotions tangled. She felt vindicated. Finally the truth was out, and the burden she had been carrying was no longer invisible. But at the same time she felt a deep sadness. She had never wanted to destroy the wedding. She had only wanted honesty, respect, and peace. After talking with Mira for a while, Asha finally ended the call and sat quietly. Her room felt strangely still. She didn't know whether to feel relieved, hurt, or guilty. Her family would now be in chaos, her mother furious, her father confused, Lena heartbroken. But beneath the emotional storm, Asha sensed something new: release. She no longer had to beg people to believe her. She no longer had to question her own instincts. The truth had spoken for itself. And now she had to decide how to rebuild her life after everything had fallen apart. Asha opened her window and breathed in the cool night air. She felt bruised inside, but also lighter than she had felt in weeks. "One day at a time," she whispered. She didn't know how her next conversation with her family would go. She didn't know how long it would take to heal. But she knew one thing clearly. She would never let anyone make her doubt her own voice again. The betrayal hurt deeply, yet it also taught her how strong she truly was. And as she sat in that quiet hotel room, Asha finally allowed herself to imagine a life beyond the pain. The morning after the ruined wedding, Asha woke up to a phone vibrating non-stop on the bedside table. She sighed, already expecting more angry messages from her mother or messy apologies from Lena. But when she checked the screen, she saw a message from her father instead. It was short and gentle. "Please call us when you can. We want to understand." Asha sat quietly, unsure whether she was ready for that conversation. She loved her parents deeply, but she feared the confrontation waiting for her. Still, she knew she couldn't avoid them forever. After a long breath, she called back. Her father answered with a tired voice. "Asha, everything is upside down." Asha swallowed. "I know." Then he added softly, "Come home. We need to talk as a family." Asha drove back to her parents' house later that afternoon. Her heart raced the entire trip. When she stepped inside, the atmosphere felt thick. Her mother sat on the sofa, eyes red from crying. Her father stood nearby, hands folded tightly. Lena wasn't there. The room fell silent for a few seconds until her mother finally spoke. "Why didn't you tell us sooner, Asha?" she asked, voice trembling between anger and grief. Asha took a deep breath. I tried, she said quietly. But nobody believed me. Her father frowned. We didn't think she'd ever do something like that. Asha nodded, her eyes burning. I didn't think so either. But I saw it. Her mother sighed heavily and covered her face with her hands. Her wedding is gone, Asha. Everything fell apart. Asha felt her chest tighten. I didn't ruin her wedding, she said firmly. Her choices did. Her father nodded slowly. That's true, but emotions are high right now. She's devastated. Asha lowered her eyes. I'm devastated too. Her mother hesitated before asking the question she had been holding back. Do you hate your sister now? Asha shook her head. I don't hate her. I'm just hurt. Deeply hurt. The room grew quiet again, the weight of everything settling between them like dust. After a long silence, Asha's father sat beside her. We want the family to heal, he said softly. But it will take time. Asha nodded, though part of her wondered how healing was possible after such betrayal. Where's Lena now? She asked. Her mother sighed. At your aunt's house. She's been crying since yesterday. She says she wants to talk to you, but she's scared you'll hate her. Asha looked down at her hands. I don't hate her, she repeated. But I don't know if I'm ready to hear her excuses. Her mother's voice softened. It won't be excuses, Asha, it will be apologies. Real ones. Asha stayed with her parents for a few hours talking and listening. She explained every detail of the past weeks. How Rio dismissed her feelings, how Lena ignored her boundaries, how everyone made her feel dramatic or insecure. Her parents listened quietly, guilt settling on their shoulders. Her father placed a hand on hers. I'm sorry we didn't listen, he said. You were alone in this. Asha felt tears rise. I just wanted someone to take me seriously. Her mother moved closer and hugged her tightly. We failed you, she whispered, her voice cracking. For the first time in days, Asha allowed herself to cry openly. After leaving her parents' house, Asha drove to a quiet park nearby to clear her head. She sat on a bench under a large tree and watched families walk by with laughing children. It felt strange to see joy moving so freely around her, while she still carried the weight of betrayal. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was a short message from Lena. Can we talk soon? Please. Asha didn't respond immediately. She stared at the message for a long time. Part of her wanted answers. Part of her wanted distance. After several minutes, she placed her phone back into her bag and whispered, Not yet. Days passed quietly as Asha stayed alone in her hotel room. She spent most of her time thinking, about her family, about Rio, about everything she had lost. She wondered how long it would take before the sharp pain in her chest softened. She wondered if she would ever trust easily again. One evening she finally replied to Lena, We can meet, but not at home. Neutral place. Lena's response came quickly. Anywhere. Just tell me where. Asha chose a small private cafe, far from familiar faces. She didn't know if this meeting would bring peace or reopen wounds, but she knew avoiding forever wasn't the answer. The next afternoon Asha arrived first. She sat near the back, her hands trembling slightly. A few minutes later Lena walked in. Her eyes were swollen, her face pale. She approached the table slowly. Asha, she whispered. Asha didn't smile. Sit, she said quietly. Lena sat down, twisting her fingers together nervously. There was a long pause before she finally said, I'm so sorry. Her voice cracked. I ruined everything. I betrayed you. I don't even know how to explain myself. Asha listened in silence as Lena continued. It started small. And then I lost control. I should have stopped it. I should have stayed away from him. You trusted me and I broke that trust. Tears slid down Lena's cheeks. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I needed you to hear me say I'm sorry. Asha felt her throat tighten. She wanted to scream, to cry, to walk away, but instead she said softly, You hurt me deeply, Lena. More than anyone ever has. Lena nodded, sobbing. I know, and I'll regret it forever. The cafe felt heavy with the weight of their broken bond, but also with the first small step toward something new. Maybe not forgiveness yet, but understanding. Asha took a slow breath before speaking again. Lena, what I saw that day. It broke something inside me. Her voice was calm but heavy. Lena wiped her eyes with shaking hands. I know, she whispered. I replay that moment every second. I can't believe I let myself do something so terrible. Asha looked at her sister closely, trying to read her sincerity. Why him, Lena? She finally asked. Of all people, why my partner? Lena looked down, ashamed. I don't have a good answer, she admitted. It started as harmless attention, and I kept telling myself it didn't mean anything. But then I got caught in the excitement. And I didn't stop when I should have. Her voice broke again. I was selfish. I was wrong. Asha leaned back in her chair and stared at the cafe wall, feeling a strange mixture of anger and exhaustion. Do you understand what this did to me? She asked quietly. Everyone thought I was insecure. People told me I was imagining things. Even Rio made me doubt myself. Lena nodded quickly. I know. And I'm so sorry you had to go through that alone. Asha's eyes softened just a little, but the hurt was still deep. I wasn't just being dramatic, she continued. I was trying to protect my relationship and my peace. Lena sniffed. You tried to warn me. I didn't listen. The silence between them felt thick, but this time it wasn't filled with anger, just truth. After a long pause, Asha said, Forgiveness won't happen today. Lena's body tensed, but she nodded respectfully. I'm not asking for it today, she said. I just don't want to lose you forever. Asha sighed softly. I don't know what the future looks like. I don't know if things can ever go back to normal. Lena blinked back tears. I'll accept whatever you decide. You deserve peace. Asha looked at her sister's face. The same face she grew up playing with, laughing with, fighting with. It hurt to see it now covered in regrets. She whispered, Healing takes time, Lena. A lot of time. When their conversation ended, both sisters stood up slowly. Lena hesitated before asking, Can I hug you? Asha shook her head gently. Not yet. Lena accepted the answer, though her shoulders sank. They walked out of the cafe separately, each carrying a different weight on their hearts. As Asha stepped into the sunlight, she felt the air hit her face like a reminder of the world outside her pain. She stood still for a moment, breathing deeply, trying to steady herself. She wasn't healed, not even close, but she had taken the first step toward understanding, and that mattered. Over the next days, Asha focused on rebuilding her life. She checked out of the hotel and returned to her small apartment, which now felt unfamiliar without Rio's presence. She cleaned the room slowly, almost like she was clearing away the last pieces of their relationship. Every object reminded her of something. An old laugh, a shared plan, a broken promise. She gathered everything that belonged to Rio and placed it in a box. This chapter is closed, she whispered to herself. She didn't cry this time. She felt tired, but she also felt stronger than before. Her parents visited her a few days later. They brought food, warm hugs, and softer voices. Her mother placed a hand on her cheek and said, You deserved better than what happened. Asha nodded quietly. Her father looked around the apartment and asked gently, How are you holding up? Asha answered honestly, Some moments are hard. Some moments feel empty. But I'm managing. Her mother squeezed her hand. We're here now. You're not alone. For the first time in a long while, Asha believed those words. She realized she didn't have to carry everything by herself anymore. Asha also met with Mauro a week later at a quiet riverside bench. He looked different, older somehow, like the wedding disaster had drained him. I'm sorry for everything, he told her. I should have noticed the signs too. Asha shook her head. None of this was your fault. Mauro gave a small sad laugh. It still hurts. Asha nodded. It hurts for me too. They sat in silence for a moment, both grieving relationships that collapsed under betrayal. Mauro finally said, Thank you for telling me the truth. You saved me from a painful future. Asha appreciated his words more than he knew. As the weeks passed, Asha slowly found small moments of peace. She went on quiet morning walks, started journaling again, and spent more time with friends who supported her. Whenever memories of Rio or Lena surfaced, she let herself feel the emotion but didn't let it drown her. She told herself, Healing is not a straight line. And she meant it. Some days were heavy, some were lighter. But every day she felt a little more in control of her heart. One evening, Asha sat on her balcony watching the sunset paint the sky orange and gold. She wrapped her hands around a warm mug and whispered, "I survived it." It was the first time she said it aloud, the first time she truly believed it. She didn't know what her future held, but she knew she would walk into it with clearer instincts, stronger boundaries, and a deeper love for her own voice. The betrayal had broken her, but the healing was rebuilding her into someone wiser and braver. And that, she realized, was the beginning of a new story. Asha decided it was time to slowly reconnect with parts of her life she had abandoned during the chaos. She returned to work, keeping a quiet presence in the office. Her coworkers noticed she wasn't her usual calm, warm self, but they respected her space. During lunch breaks, she sat alone outside, letting the breeze cool her mind. One afternoon, her colleague Jorin approached her carefully. "Hey, haven't seen you smile in a while," he said with gentle concern. Asha gave him a small nod. "It's been a rough few weeks," she admitted. Jorin didn't ask for details. Instead, he sat beside her and said, "Whatever it is, you'll get through it. You look stronger than you feel." His words touched her more than she expected. In the evenings, Asha found comfort in simple routines, cooking meals, watering her plants, reading books she never had time for before. Slowly, her apartment began to feel like her space again, not a reminder of her broken relationship. One night, while arranging a small shelf, she found an old photo of herself and Lena from childhood. She stared at it for a long time. Two little girls smiling with missing teeth, arms around each other. No idea of what adulthood could bring. "We were so innocent," she whispered. The photo hurt, but it also grounded her. She placed it gently in a drawer, not ready to throw it away, but not ready to display it either. A few days later, Lena texted her again. "I'm giving you space, but I'm here whenever you want to talk. I love you." Asha read the message several times. She didn't reply immediately, but she also didn't delete it. She understood that love between siblings was complicated. It bent, stretched, and sometimes broke, but it didn't disappear. She wasn't ready to rebuild the bridge, but she didn't plan to burn it either. Healing needed time, and Asha intended to move at her own pace. One weekend, Asha visited a small local art fair. She wandered through the stalls, looking at paintings, handmade jewelry, and soft music playing from street performers. For the first time in weeks, she felt genuinely relaxed. A friendly artist noticed her interest in a simple painting of a sunrise and said, "That one means new beginnings." Asha smiled softly. "Maybe that's what I need." The artist nodded with warmth. "Then it's yours." Asha bought the painting and carried it home carefully, feeling something light open inside her chest. It felt symbolic, gentle, hopeful, and quiet. That night, Asha hung the sunrise painting on her living room wall. She stepped back and stared at it, feeling the calm colors wash over her. She whispered, "A new beginning." This time the words didn't feel forced. She realized she wasn't trying to convince herself anymore. She genuinely felt it. She made a cup of tea, sat on her couch, and let herself breathe deeply for the first time in a long while. The weight she had carried was slowly fading, replaced by a quiet strength she never knew she held. Her parents continued to check on her regularly. They brought groceries, offered to cook dinner, and shared small stories meant to brighten her mood. One evening, her father told her, "We're proud of how you handled everything. You stood firm." Asha smiled softly. "I didn't feel strong." Her father shook his head gently. "Strength doesn't always feel loud. Sometimes it's just choosing to walk away from what hurts." His words stayed with her long after they left. She realized she had done exactly that, walked away, even when her heart was breaking. Asha also began seeing a counselor, something she hadn't considered before. The counselor listened patiently as Asha poured out the confusion, betrayal, and doubt she had carried. "You didn't just lose a relationship," the counselor told her. "You lost trust, safety, and an important connection with your sister. Healing from that takes time." Asha nodded, tears slipping down her face. She didn't feel judged. She didn't feel stupid. She felt human. Each session helped her understand her emotions more clearly and taught her how to rebuild her confidence without relying on others' validation. Weeks later, Asha finally agreed to meet Lena again, this time in a quiet park. They sat under a tree, the air calm around them. Lena looked remorseful but composed. I'm working on myself, Lena said softly. Therapy, reflection, everything. I know I broke us. I just hope one day, even if far away, we can be sisters again. Asha looked at her for a long moment. She saw regret, not excuses. She saw a woman trying to make amends. She nodded gently. One day, Asha said. But not today. And that's okay. Lena accepted this with a small, grateful smile. Asha walked home after the meeting, feeling neither heavy nor confused. Instead, she felt calm, as if life had finally opened a softer path for her. When she reached her apartment, she looked at the sunrise painting again. Felt like a quiet promise. She whispered to herself, I will be okay. And for the first time since the betrayal began, Asha truly believed it. Her story wasn't ending. It was shifting, transforming. She had endured heartbreak, faced painful truths, defended her own voice, and now stood firmly in her new beginning. With steady steps and a stronger heart, Asha walked into a future filled not with fear, but with hope. Please subscribe, like, and comment where you're watching from.